All right, you are listening once again to Geek Vice, the official podcast of nothing. I got nothing today. I don't know what we're talking about. It must be because it's Monday. I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Yeah, that's your excuse
I've
every
got
week.
nothing, and here's your host who hopefully has something more.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Geek Vice, episode number 102. Two geeks struggling to be heard across the vastness of the World Wide Web. We dare to go where millions of men had gone before. I mean, really, someone had to show us how to do it. Thanks for joining us in our geekdom as we discuss all things geek and sometimes relevant topics. Tonight we've got video games galore, hence the name of the episode, which is Gamey Games.
You screwed that up, didn't you?
I did. I screwed that one up. That guy's Kip. Kip, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing reasonably well. How about yourself?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. I feel bad about missing last week, but man, I was not doing hot. I was feeling like crap. Came down with whatever bug was going around.
I think you had Royals fever.
It could be. Well, I'm sure staying up until 2 o'clock in the morning, like every day of the week, didn't help.
No, I'm sure you weren't the only one that suffered for that.
Yeah, between the Royals games, and then the one day off was Thursday night, and Thursday night was a Sporting Kansas City game that went into a penalty kick shootout and actually went into the 22nd shot of penalty kick shootout. The longest penalty kick shootout in the history of soccer. So, that was really long, and the game didn't start until 9 o'clock local time because it was taking place in Portland, Oregon. So it didn't start till 9. The game itself is 2 hours long, so that was 11. Another 30 minutes of overtime, put it at 11:30. And then you go into 22 rounds or I guess 11 rounds, 22 shots of penalty kick shootouts. That game was like the never-ending hockey game. Which I think I've watched 3 of the top 5 longest hockey games too. So for some reason, I just like watching sports into the wee hours of the morning.
Apparently.
Yeah. So, but I know I also missed last week. We weren't able to talk about the gaming day at your house. How'd that go?
Man, has it been that long since we podcasted?
It has.
It went pretty well. You missed out again.
I did. This was the Halloween episode too, right?
Yeah, we played City of Horror, which is a zombie game that if you're in an area with more than one survivor and it gets overrun by zombies, you actually have a vote on who you're throwing to the zombies so everybody else can survive.
Nice.
So I kind of like that aspect of that. I had each person had 3 characters because we had 5 people playing.
Right.
And, I made it to the end of the game with 1 left. So.
Well, that's good, right?
Yeah, I felt pretty good about that. I didn't win, but it's okay.
Well, you're used to that by now.
Oh, yeah, I'm used to not winning. I did win a game of Survive Escape from Atlantis. The box is right here.
Nice.
And it's my newest game. It's the newest addition to my game collection. And it's a lot of fun. I think you would enjoy this one. You've played Forbidden Island with me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, think of Forbidden Island, except for you're not working together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so basically you're on an island that's sinking.
Okay.
And you've got so many meeples. I can't remember how many there are. It's like 8 of them or something like that. And you're trying to get them on boats and get them to safety. Your turn consists of moving your people or boats. Drawing a tile. The board is made up of little hexagon tiles.
Okay.
And you start, and they're different thicknesses. The thinnest one is the beaches. The next thickest one is the forest, we'll call it, and then the thickest one is mountain terrain.
Okay.
So you have to start with the beaches first, and they have to be adjacent to water, and you flip them over. If there's somebody on it when you flip it over, they're now in the drink, they're swimming. And on the back side of the tile tells you what's going on. There could be a shark. And if there's somebody swimming there, the shark eats them, your meeple is out of the game.
Nice.
There could be a whale, and if you're swimming, he leaves you alone. But if you're in a boat, he pretty much destroys your boat, and now everybody that's in the boat was swimming, and the boat's out of the game. There's a sea monster that eats both the boats and the people. Then there's little things. There's also bordered ones that you can. The sharks and everything you play immediately. As soon as you flip it over, it's like, put a shark here.
Yeah.
There's other ones that you can play later, and they're like, let you like move the shark or move the whale, or there's also the dolphin one where you can get free movement and move your people closer to getting on safe land. So it's a pretty fun little game. I did win one game of that. We played two. I won one of them. And the way you win is each meeple on the underneath side has a point value. And once you place your meeples at the beginning of the game, you can't pick them up and look underneath it anymore.
Oh, jeez.
Till the game's over and you count up the guys that made it to safety. Whoever has the most points wins the game. So it's a fun little game. Of course, game one we missed a few rules and didn't play correctly. But that goes with the territory. Yeah, that goes with the territory playing at my house. You got to screw up the rules at least once.
Yeah.
And that was we didn't know that when somebody was in the water, they could use a movement point to swim to another grid.
Okay.
We were playing it as if they're in the drink, that's where they're stuck until you can get a boat to them. So first game screwed that part of it up. But if that's the worst that we did, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
But it's a game for 2 to 4 people. It takes like 45 minutes to play. It's a lot of fun. If we still worked in the same company, it'd be one you and I would play over lunch.
Yeah. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, so I highly recommend Survive, Escape from Atlantis. It's a fun little game.
Very cool. Very cool. And I take it you got the new Call of Duty as well?
I did. I can't help myself. Got Black Ops 3. And you know what? I like it better than probably the last 2 releases of anything from the Call of Duty franchise.
Really?
The Advanced Warfare, I didn't like the exosuits where you can do the big jumps and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
You can do that in Black Ops 3, that is there, but it's not so prominent. It doesn't take over the game like it did in Advanced Warfare.
I gotcha.
So you still feel like a foot soldier, which is great, especially for a guy like me who prefers to keep his boots on the ground. And everybody flying around me in Advanced Warfare just kind of sucked the joy out of that game. But in Black Ops 3, it's not as prominent. You can even jump and like run along a wall.
Yeah.
And again, doesn't take away from the gameplay, which I appreciate. I like the gun, the feel of the battles. It feels a little bit more in control.
Okay.
Advanced Warfare felt willy-nilly. It felt like things were just kind of spiraling out of control on you. This game, everything feels a little more controlled. I still get my butt kicked on a regular basis, but at least I feel like I have a fighting chance.
Right.
Unintended. Um, when I first got the game and put it in, there was a shit ton of downloads it had to do. I mean, probably 3 gigs.
Wow.
Yeah, it was day one. I got it the day it came out. You don't expect a bunch of downloads for a brand new game, but there they were. So I got all done downloading, and I never play the story. I just don't play the story. I like the multiplayer. I like to get in there and just start killing strangers that or actually get killed by strangers is actually for me.
Right.
But I got everything downloaded, installed, got in there, and it said, "Oh, you can't use multiplayer yet because it's still downloading your multiplayer."
Oh, jeez.
What? You gotta be kidding me. So I played zombies for a little while, which is okay, but I don't know. I was like very, very happy when the multiplayer was all set up and ready to go. I mean, the zombies is cool, but after a while, you just kind of get tired of the no-win situation.
Right.
It just gradually gets harder until you're all dead.
Right. Yeah.
You get tired of that, but once the multiplayer started and I got my guns set up and got used to the play and still get lost on some of the maps. That's just the way it goes with it. But I like the new maps. I mean, there's one that's an aquarium, has some good pinch points for some good battles. There's one that's kind of I don't know, you're like up on the top of a mountain at like this resort kind of a deal. And it's got some good pinch points on that one, but it's a big map. But it doesn't feel like it in a lot of places because there's just places where the action just naturally happens. So I'm happy with the maps. I'm happy with the fact the exosuits aren't screwing up the game. So far, I'm really enjoying it. I've probably put way too much time into it in the few days I've had it.
That's kind of the way it goes, though, right?
Yeah, I probably played for about an hour and a half when I got home from work. The wife was out at happy hour with one of her friends, and it's like,
nice.
I'm going to play. And then when she came home, she goes, "What'd you have for dinner?" "Oh, nothing." "Well, why didn't you eat?" "Well, I didn't want to waste time eating when I could be."
Exactly.
So admitting I have a problem is the first step. But yeah, I like it. I know a lot of people are losing faith in the Call of Duty franchise. I know the sales have been gradually creeping down, especially the last few releases. But I think this is this is an upgrade from the last two, I think. So
right, yeah.
You've been on the fence. I say spend your money on the Black Ops 3 so far. So good.
Very cool, very cool. Do you think this one might refresh the franchise a little bit?
It has for me. I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
No.
But for me, it has, because I was thinking this is going to be my last shot. And if it sucks kind of like Advanced Warfare did, then I'm done.
Right.
But I like it a lot, so that's good. And I've got Battlefront on reserve, I guess is the best word for it. I did the pre-order.
Okay.
So when that comes out on the 17th, I'm going to have some decisions to make on which game is going to take up my time.
That'll be curious to see how that works out for you then, because two very similar games. I'll be curious to see if Call of Duty can keep up with the Battlefront.
Yeah, me too. And my time is at a premium these days, it seems like. And the only reason I got Battlefront is because people like Doug and Eddie are going to get it.
Right.
I can at least play online with those guys.
Nice.
So we'll just have to see. It could be one of those things, since luckily Eddie goes to bed really early, so I can play that until like 10 o'clock when he's, his old man bedtime kicks in, and then I can play Black Ops 3 until 3 in the morning like I did this weekend. Hello?
I'm here. Amber just got back from Bunko.
Oh.
Want to wave? Say hi. They can't see you over there. She's like, see?
Hi,
there she is. See, everybody, she is real.
It is.
You're not recording this, are you?
Yep, it's all recorded.
Well, now you're in trouble.
Yeah,
We
now
can edit that out.
now I'm busted, and she wants that edited out. So
Good luck with that.
John says, "Good luck with that." So no, that's great. That's kind of the thing with those multiplayer games like Call of Duty and Battlefront and that kind of stuff. I know that's the reason why I picked up the only Call of Duty game that I own, was because there was a couple guys that I knew that had the game, so they wanted to play online. However, I played online with them, and they were so much better than I was. It was really not much fun to play.
Well, that can happen.
Even when I was on their team, I felt like I was just dragging everything down. So that didn't work out so well for me. But I've never really been one to latch on to the first-person shooter games, and really I feel I do much better at, and I enjoy a lot more of the stealth type games. Which brings me to my first topic: is I finally completed Splinter Cell Blacklist. I completed it. Actually, I think the weekend that the Royals won the World Series.
Dang.
So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a great game. A lot of fun. I didn't feel like it was too overwhelming. Sometimes guys like me don't have a whole lot of time to play games. You kind of discuss the same thing, but I usually only play for maybe an hour and a half in one sitting. Like, that's the longest I really have time to sit down. So when you get into a game that's an 80-hour, 90-hour plus game, that takes me a long time to finish, and I usually get burnt out before I get anywhere close to finishing it. But this game was just kind of the right length. It kept me wanting to play. So I'd finish a mission, and it left you with just enough of a cliffhanger on how they were going to, what you needed to do next to progress the story. I had a lot of fun at it, a lot of fun with it. Splinter Cell has or at least the Blacklist has a setup for it to where you can master each level in basically 3 different play styles: Ghost, Panther, and Assault. Ghost is kind of the don't kill anybody except the final target, knock out people. You can subdue them, use non-lethal force, basically. It's very, very stealth-based, really hard to master because it's basically like avoiding people and trying not to knock anyone out, because if they're found and they're knocked out, then the alarm gets raised and then all hell breaks loose. So it's a lot of just staying in the shadows and avoiding them. I tried doing that at first in the game, and that just became really hard to do. So I decided to take the Panther approach, which is lethal force, but from a stealth aspect. So sneaking up on people and slitting their throat was okay. And I liked doing that. So I did that a lot. There is, and then Assault is just your all-out guns blazing, alarm sounding, just going in with whatever weapons needed. So of the levels, I believe I only mastered 2 or 3 of all the levels, and they were all mastered in the Panther style. So that was fun. I liked doing that. My one downside to the game, or the one part of the game that I didn't like, was there were a couple. They kind of put together this team around you. You have Sam Fisher, and then you have Grim, who is your basically your handler, your tactical person, who kind of helps you analyze the data, set up your mission type thing. Then you've got I can't remember who the tech guy. There's a tech guy, kind of like Q, that gives you new gadgets and access to new guns. And And then there's another guy who's basically your counterpart, and he is he's another Black Ops type person. The ability, his expertise is kind of sniper. He's kind of a sniper, so he's usually there for extraction and drop off. Well, there's a couple missions where you actually play as that guy. And my big complaint was when you play as that guy, you play in a first-person shooter type setup instead of the normal game, which is third-person perspective. And that bothered me. Like, I didn't like, those aren't the games that I like to play. And so it made the game, it made those levels kind of my least favorite. It kind of almost took me out of the game because a couple of the levels I had to redo over and over and over again to try to get through it. They wanted you to be stealthy and get through this thing without raising any alarms, but you're playing in a first-person perspective where you can't see anything around you. I'm like, this makes it really hard to be stealthy when I can't tell if I'm in a shadow or standing out in light. So that was kind of disheartening, but luckily there was just a couple of those levels, and once I got through there, the story kind of kept you going. One of the positives on this game that I really liked was the ending. A lot of times when you get done with a game, you're just kind of like, wow, that was kind of a letdown. This one kind of took it to, kind of kept it going. It kept building the climax. You knew, I knew that I was going into the last level, but it didn't click until I beat that level, captured the bad guy you'd been chasing the entire time, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah. The credits start rolling. You're like, yeah, I did finally beat this game. It was just kind of like, wow, that was awesome. Like it didn't feel like, oh yeah, that was a waste of time. It felt like, wow, this was actually a really good story that came to a adequate closing. Kind of left it open for a sequel, so I kind of hope there will be one. But you never know.
Well, that's pretty cool. I like how you chose the Panther. I would have chose, and this is the way I play Call of Duty, is I'm just the guy that just runs into a room and see who's in there. And then, of course, I die a lot, but that's okay.
Yeah, and that's I had to do that a couple times. There's a couple levels where you don't really have much of a choice. You've got to come in with an assault type mindset, whether the alarm's already raised or something like that. But I did play. There were several times where I would have to play a level over and over and over again because I refused to go in and try to shoot everybody. Mainly because if I did that, I died. So then I didn't get to complete the level. So I had to stick to the shadows, and I kind of upgraded I spent the money that you get at the end of each mission. I spent that money on things to make me more stealth. So I had very little armor on me. So basically one or two shots and I was dead. So going in guns blazing did not really work out so well.
Oh yeah, it rarely works out for me, but it's fun.
So and then I was going through and looking at after I completed that one, I needed to find a new game to play, and I was going through my Steam catalog of games that I've purchased previously or somebody gave me a code for, and one of them was Brutal Legend. Have you heard of this game?
I have not.
This game I don't know if it was written by Jack Black, but it sure feels like it. He is the main voice actor in it, and the idea is you're a heavy metal roadie. So you basically, not a groupie, a roadie.
Okay.
Roadies are people who kind of help get everything running in the background. They keep the guitar, keep the instruments tuned, keep all the equipment stage, and usually your roadies are the guys who are running the sound equipment at your venues. They're setting up the lights and the pyrotechnics and all that stuff, all the behind the scenes stuff for a concert. Those are the guys that are taking care of it. So you play as this, Jack Black's character is this roadie who is basically just gets killed in the very first scene and then teleported to like the equivalent of heavy metal hell, I guess, or heaven. I don't know. You're trying to save this weird world, and you have an axe and a guitar, and it's just a run around and smack things with the axe or shoot electricity out of your guitar. Very, very weird, but really kind of funny. Like, if you like Jack Black's comedy, then you'd really like this game. It's pretty funny. It's going to be, it's interesting when within the first, probably the first 10 minutes of playing, you are asked two questions. The game pauses and gives you almost like a warning label, and you have to pick yes or no. And the first one was whether or not you want to hear cuss words or not. And then the second one is whether or not you want the gore turned on or not. And they ask them in kind of a very Jack Black type way, answering like, yes, I don't mind seeing decapitated heads and blood squirting everywhere. And that's pretty much what happens when you turn those on. It is, it's pretty funny. It's all done comedic, it's all done animated type, tongue-in-cheek type violence, but I'm actually had a lot of fun playing that game, so I'm gonna have to stick with that a little bit longer.
I would have never guessed.
Yeah, it's definitely not something. It's kind of weird. I take the Splinter Cell, which was very realistic, kind of based itself off of things that could happen right now, and then I'm going all the way to Brutal Legend, which is so far out there beyond the realm of imagination. I barely comprehend what I'm actually trying to do. It's I feel like I might be in Jack Black's head while I'm playing this game, and that's a little scary all in of itself.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, the name Brutal Legend does not belie what's actually there, so that's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's definitely worth checking out. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can get it on Steam for probably $5 or $10, so definitely worth that.
Sweet.
So, some other games that we've got going on out there, Telltale decided, they have done games like The Walking Dead. They have done games like Game of Thrones. They've done games like Borderlands. The Borderlands prequel, I believe, is a Telltale game. But they have decided to go with a Minecraft story mode, which is basically a kind of a lighthearted, maybe like a Sam and Max type game. It's a action adventure type game, so kind of like a hack and slash type thing. And but it's based in the Minecraft world and tells an actual story. You don't do as It's not a free-for-all like Minecraft is originally set up, but it's very it's story-driven. It's a story mode, hence the title. Go figure.
Yeah, weird.
But it's kind of still has some of the Minecraft mechanics. So you do. Damn it, I
You
did it.
do.
You do some crafting, but it's usually like, hey, you need this. You need to make one of these, and here's how you craft it. So you go find the things and craft it. So I've been debating on whether or not I get this one. I've had actually one of my neighbor kids who's a big Minecraft player has gotten it, and he likes it okay, but it's not nearly as good as or he doesn't like it as much as the actual Minecraft of it. But I'm kind of curious if I kind of want to try this and see. I don't know, see if this is more my speed when it comes to Minecraft, because the actual Minecraft game I don't understand at all.
Yeah, me neither. And I'm wondering if the story mode is going to be a little bit like playing a Lego game.
Could be.
Because there's things where you have to put stuff together and things like that. So I wonder if it's going to be pretty similar.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to give it. I don't know. I haven't decided if I want to fork over the money. It might be one that my 6-year-old might want to play, and so maybe it'll be something I get when all the episodes are out. Just get it all at once, but it's out there, and it's definitely curious. It's at least piqued my interest, being the non-Minecraft player that I am. So,
well, there you have it.
So, and then on top of that, another little video game news. Ubisoft decided to make a giant screw up, and that was they released a collector's edition for the game Might and Magic Heroes 7, and they had on their website, they had a unboxing basically to show you what all was in it, and it included a case that was a DVD case but when the game shipped, there was no DVDs, there were no discs. Instead, it just came with a PC digital download thing, and that made a pretty big uproar. There was a lot of people screaming, and when you're paying $100+ for a collector's edition, you kind of expect to get what you pay for, right?
You would think so, yes.
So yeah, even the Ubisoft's website that has the I don't know, the breakdown of what's in the collector's edition, it actually says PC DVD-ROM. It's got that logo there, which suggests that there'd be a DVD in there. It shows the case. It shows a disc for the soundtrack, and instead, no discs were shipped. So now Ubisoft has issued full refunds now, and a complimentary digital download game as compensation for this screw up. But it kind of brought me to the question of, you've got a PS4. Do you get, I guess you still get discs, right? Or did you, when you pre-ordered Call of Duty, did you just do a digital download for that?
No, I actually prefer the disc. I don't know why. Maybe it's old school, but I don't like the digital download, because I can have a mountain of discs and no big deal. You can't have a mountain of downloads without having to swap out hard drives.
Yeah, and that is kind of a concern. That's kind of the concern that I look at too. Now, it's especially with now hard drives are cheap, and yeah, you can get bigger hard drives, but at some point, I mean, especially I guess with computers it's not that big of a deal, but with consoles it can be a pretty big deal not having that space. Now, so you prefer just getting the disc, which I've almost kind of gone away from now that I have now that I'm playing more computer games. But what about these collector's editions? Collector's editions, like for this game, I mean, it comes with with a big statue. It comes with customized tarot cards. It comes with lithograph, soundtrack, art book, all kinds of stuff. I mean, would you still pay? I mean, I guess, do you buy collector's editions? Have you ever bought a collector's edition before?
I have not, because it's just more crap I have to find a place to put in my house.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. I just have a hard time dropping $100+ on a video game. I know you're getting all this other stuff, but that other stuff just goes and sits in a box.
Exactly.
So I have a hard time selling it. But yeah, I mean, since both you and I prefer the disc thing, then I say we would both want the physical copy with the collector's edition as well, right?
Yeah, if I'm spending $100, I better get the disc. That's just
Yeah.
kind of the whole deal. Because I think that's the idea in the collector's edition. You kind of get all of it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. You know, I'd expect a digital download, the disc, and all the swag.
Right.
And if one of those is missing, you're going to feel like you got gypped.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Ubisoft really kind of missed the boat on this one, and it probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal if this didn't come on the hinges or on the heels of Assassin's Creed Unity and the not very well handled release of that game and the poor status that the game was in when it was released. This is it's kind of sad to see, because I like a lot of Ubisoft games. I like the Assassin's Creed games. Splinter Cell Blacklist was an Ubisoft game. I actually have to play it through the Uplay app on Windows. So, it's kind of sad to see that they're so hit and miss, but they really have to be careful with what they're doing here, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, we're in the age of short attention spans as it is. You make one misstep and people have moved on to the next shiny object and you're forgotten. So you have to deliver. You have to deliver what's promised.
Yeah, and it's a lot of what have you done for me lately? And if you
Exactly.
you start compounding this with multiple screw-ups, multiple bad publicity, then you could start losing fans really quickly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, you have purchased your PS4. What do you think about your PS4? You like it?
I do. I like it a lot.
How would you feel if, the PS4 has been out 2 years?
Sounds right.
Yeah, 2 years. How would you feel if next year they came out with a new version of the PS4 that didn't play any of the PS4 games?
I would fly to the headquarters and start punching people in the face.
Yeah, there was a report that came out that Sony this year, and with the PS4, I guess not this year, a couple of years ago with the PS4, they decided to go away from the customized proprietary infrastructure hardware for the console and went with a generic, not necessarily generic, but a more readily available x86 architecture for their processing chip. And there is, I guess now, with the downside to this, or the plus side is it makes things cheaper to build. So they were able to put together this thing and offer it at a lower price, which is hard to believe considering they were wanting like $400 or $500 for a PS4. But what this also does is it allows for upgrading to be done easier. People are always upgrading these chips and making them faster and stronger and better. So theoretically, right now there could be there is a higher performance chip that is out there, and Sony could actually swap that out and put that into new PS4s that are being built. However, this could cause it could prevent the games that are out right now to be able to be played on that new infrastructure. Sony hasn't said they're going to do this or anything like that, but it just brings up the question of, could could this be a shorter cycle for this console, and could we see maybe in the next, PS3 lasted, what was it, 8 years, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's right.
That was out on the market before the PS4 came out. We could see here in a couple years, we could see a PS5 maybe, or maybe a PS 4.5. It's kind of a question. I don't know if that would. I don't know how that would fly with it in the face of everyone who purchased a PS4. If 4 years into the life cycle of a PS4, they're ready to throw it out the window, or not necessarily throw it out the window, but move on to the next big thing, the next generation of consoles. Would that upset you at all?
It definitely would. If they did that and Microsoft did not, then I would become a Microsoft customer. And PlayStation, Sony, whoever can just suck it at that point. If both of them decide to do it, then I may just not buy consoles anymore. I liked my Xbox 360 because I had it for a very long time.
Yeah.
Before the next gens came out. And even when they did come out, you had another almost 2 years of games that were still for both platforms.
Right. Yeah.
If they go to these faster turnaround times, I could see obsolescence coming a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And, my house is already a video game museum as it is. It would be worse. Well, actually, it wouldn't be worse because I would just stop buying. That would just be the end of it for me.
Well, and that's kind of my thing too. When I was younger and I had a lot more disposable income, consoles not lasting that long wasn't that big of a deal. I could just move on to the next one. Now I don't even have the current gen console. I don't have an Xbox One. I don't have a PS4, mainly because I can't afford to. I don't have that kind of extra cash just laying around. And I think this is a bad idea. Now, I guess the silver lining in this, with this more generic infrastructure and or platform that is for the PS4, this could make it easier to offer backwards compatibility from launch. So maybe they go, what would you think if they came out with a PS5 in a couple years, but it played all the PS4 games?
The idea of the games doesn't really affect me a whole lot. Spending $400 or $500 every 2 years on a new console is a game killer.
Yeah.
Being backwards compatible would be awesome if it was like 6 years from now.
Right.
2 years from now, no. It still pissed me off.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. This isn't, again, Sony hasn't said anything. This was just an article that I found about the infrastructure in the PS4 that I hadn't realized, mainly because I don't know that much about the inside of the current generation of consoles. So I thought it was interesting. And you hear that, Sony? Kip says, don't make a new one quite yet.
No.
So the last thing that I wanted to bring up tonight was a basically a court case that came out and uh, gave permission to a certain group of people to legally jailbreak game consoles and to crack abandoned games. So you've got those old games that you love to play, but for whatever reason the company decided to lock them down so that you had to have a certain key or a certain DRM in order to play them, certain access to a server, and the government has basically come out, or I guess the U.S. Copyright Office has granted an exemption for museums to basically hack games and to jailbreak old consoles in order to play them. Well, and basically enable to show them in a museum type setting, a more educational type thing, which is kind of a cool idea, and it kind of got me into looking, what kind of museums out there that show video games. Is there a video game museum out there? And I did find one that is actually just getting started, and it's supposed to be beginning in the winter of 2015. So that's this year. That's coming up really soon, and it's the National Video Game Museum, and it is finding its home in Frisco, Texas. Want to make a trip to Frisco?
No, because you know what? One, it's in Texas. Two, I think I have a video game museum in my house.
Yeah, that is true. I think this is really kind of cool. I think it's great. Video games have kind of become more of an art form, especially recently. And I really kind of, I would like to be able to show my kids or even my grandkids at some point the history of the video game industry. And I think it's great that somebody is going through and has found at least a permanent home for a museum like this. Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great idea. Like you said, you can take your grandkids to it and say, "You guys have it so good. I had games that only had 16 colors."
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Well, and not only like the different games that are out there, but also kind of the history of these things, like how they were made and where they came from compared to where they're at now. If we just, even if you looked back at the first Nintendo, from the first Nintendo till now, the way things are made and the different technology that's used for them is incredible that it's come this far.
absolutely.
So and also this museum is planning a arcade style museum setup, so they're gonna have as many cabinets as they can reasonably fit into this space, so you'll be able to play some of these arcade games from olden days. I kind of just want to go to do that.
Yeah, they'd have to have some games you could play. Otherwise, it's just torture that you go and read and see all these video games. You
Yeah.
can't do a dang thing. You can't touch. You
Yeah.
can't play.
Well, and I think this kind of goes. I think this kind of all goes hand in hand with the U.S. Copyright Office allowing these people to crack games. So I mean, basically, you think of it, it's like you want to go games like SimCity, the latest SimCity game, or even Diablo 3. Those are all those require an online DRM server in order to authenticate your game so that you can play. And now, well, I guess not now, in the future, when these companies shut down the servers, that these DRM servers for games, because they're too old, companies or museums will still be able to have these games up and running, so that you can actually see them, and we can show somebody what Diablo 3 was when we get to Diablo 15 or whatever it is Blizzard decides to go to next.
Yeah, you never know. But yeah, I think they've got to do something to allow, places like this video game museum to showcase what they have on display. Otherwise, everything up to that point is gone.
Yeah, and it's it would be sad to just have some of these games, some games that were big, influential games, whether it was gameplay or technology or just the setting of the game that was just kind of set the tone for that generation of games. It would be sad to not be able to show that because of DRM and people worried about pirated games. So I think it's good. I think it's awesome. One other thing on the video game museum before we close out this topic is the other cool thing about this is that the city is actually putting some money into this, as well as the owners of the museum, of the idea. They're putting some money into this, and then they're also going and trying to collect money from I believe I saw that they had a Kickstarter campaign that they tried to run, or a crowdsource funding campaign going, as well as getting money from other publishers. Publishers want their games to be shown, so it's kind of cool how we're seeing all these different people come together to raise money for this thing, so that we can get something like this out there.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea for the city to pitch in. They're gonna benefit from it, because there's a gazillion of us geeks out there that would go to the holy land of video gaming.
Yeah, exactly. I'm picturing like a Vegas casino type feel. You walk in and you just hear the
Exactly.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I've trying to keep track of it to see when this thing's going to open up. Their website says it's winter of this year, so we'll see. But the public hours are still to be determined. So just can't wait to see when this thing's going to open up, and I want to plan a trip to Frisco, Texas to go check it out.
There you go.
So I think that will do it for tonight. Do you got anything else you want to throw out there?
I got nothing. The cat is bothering me, telling me we've been on long enough.
Yeah, the cat's saying it's time to go to bed.
That's right.
So, all right, everybody. Thanks for listening to us, listening to our ramblings. You can check us out on our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. You can also follow us on Google Plus and Facebook. Just search for Geek Vice. You can follow that guy on Twitter at Kip Killigan. You can follow me on Twitter at Geek Vice. And you can email us with anything you want to at geekvice@gmail.com. We will see you next week.
Later.